formidable robot.
I just want to start off by saying that I knew that at one point in time, everybody will make movies based on, well, anything at this point, because I guess nowadays, Hollywood no longer has original ideas or something. But I can't help but notice that when it comes to horror, there are movies based on kids' cartoons and cartoon characters. I recall they made one based on the Banana Splits. I think originally it was supposed to have been Five Nights at Freddy's, but the creator didn't like some of the ideas, so they changed it. Honestly, that movie is what made me first learn about the old kids' cartoons, since they were just people dressed in costumes and not animatronics. Then again, I don't remember if I used to watch it when I was a kid, assuming it was on TV as it repeats during the 80s. Then they made 2 horror movies on Winnie the Pooh, and apparently the 2 movies are part of some weird shared universe cause there are horror movies like Peter Pan, and apparently one about Bambi. Hell, Mickey Mouse got 2 horror movies cause one is called Mousetrap, though it's about a guy wearing a Mickey Mouse mask, while another is called Screamboat. I even saw a topic where Popeye the Sailor has a horror movie called Popeye the Slayer. This is nothing new. Clowns, dolls and music boxes have long been considered potentially creepy. They are subjects of common phobias, coulrophobia and pediophobia respectively, or pupophobia in the case of ventriloquist dummies. The historical role of clowns is complex, and they certainly weren't all for children centuries ago. Some people consider clowns frightening because of their makeup, baggy costumes and mannerisms. John Wayne Gacy certainly didn't help the situation. Stephen King popularized the figure of the evil clown in his famous novel, It, as well as its cinematic adaptations. Horror movies about killer clowns have been around at least since the 1980s, although there are stories about sinister circuses which predate the 80s. There's also an internet urban legend about one, but I really didn't like that story. Way too wacky for my taste. However, there was one story on 4chan that really caught my attention. I don't remember much about it since it had been a long while, but I do recall loving the idea of a full release of an adult cartoon called The Trees Have Eyes. Apparently this one, like the movies I described earlier, was a villain-centered cartoon based on 90s kids shows like Little Bear and Franklin, with the characters being zoomorphic human beings. An internet user by the name of Mr. Nostalgia123 said that he doesn't know who created and animated the pilot episode, although he had screenshots of the characters. One was the main star of the show by the name of Randy Mac, a white oriental short hair with pinkish red eyes. Unlike other feline villains in the animation industry, Randy was described as being a breath of fresh air to the audience as it really stood out amongst all the others. It also stood out in the way this was the very first version of the evil cat character that Mr. Nostalgia can confidently say he didn't have any major issues with. Now because you've already seen this trope time and time again and this show is pretty true to form for the most part, I'm only really going to get into what this version does differently compared to everything else. The first thing Mr. Nostalgia noticed right away when getting into his story was the sheer amount of effort it put into giving the audience a well-realized realistic interpretation of the trope itself. Randy is immediately described as having albinism, a rare genetic condition in which the body has a lower amount of melanin than usual. Because of this, Randy became the subject of bullying, leading to him being antisocial and extremely bitter. From the very beginning, Mr. Nostalgia saw what this show was trying to set up and he was all for it, and that much continued to be the case as he got further. Randy's characterization is also incredibly good here. Instead of being selfish, sneaky, comedic and cowardly like most feline villains, Randy is simply depicted as an incredibly unstable individual. He flies off the handle at the smallest of remarks, leading to him becoming extremely hostile and, at times, violent. Another heroic dog named Bill Warren has no idea how to help him with it, with him choosing to ignore it, and his mouse friend Phil Adams being incredibly overbearing at times towards him. All of this culminates into a version of the classic trope where you can hate the villain, but it's only because you're scared of him. Randy is clearly mentally ill in some way and isn't provided the help he needs for it, but his actions throughout the show often affect people who don't deserve it. And he makes no attempts to be a better person on his own. All of that, as well as the many new details about the cat's personality that are included, which are meant to further foreshadow the path he takes. The creator of this show wanted this version of the evil cat character to feel like a realistic serial killer, and you can see that with many of the scenes depicting his behavior early on. He kills and mutilates small non-human animals, watches and stalks a female black cat from his school obsessively, and fantasizes about the ways he killed people just because they get on his nerves. He has all the makings of a real-world serial killer long before any dogs or tragedies that tip him over the edge, and it makes him really unsettling here. Is it a bit on the nose and cliche for a cat to be written this way? Yeah, a bit, and sometimes it took me out a little. But I think overall it benefits the story and allows the character to feel a lot more grounded than he usually is in these animations. And speaking of the dogs, one thing Mr. Nostalgia really liked here is the way the heroism of the canines and the transformation of the evil cat is handled. Instead of the dog hunting down the villain in this version, Randy instead gains a level of notoriety in the town among several different groups of characters who have it out for him, which eventually culminates in the transformation we all expect him to have. He beats up a bully in his school by the name of Dennis, steals a knife from a gang of thugs after his old one was taken by the school's principal, and gets into constant fights with Bill and Phil, which leads to them being afraid of him. What this all leads to is a horrifying set of events which eventually push him over the edge, allowing him to become the villain we all know and love. It starts with him shortly after being attacked by Dennis as revenge, going into a store to try and buy alcohol. He leaves the store but has a run-in with the thugs he stole the knife from, and is knocked out. When he awakens, he finds himself on the ground surrounded by thugs, and he's beaten to a pulp by the mountain lion he stole from, the bottle of alcohol he purchased bashed over his head. The thugs try leaving him, but one specific, especially sadistic member of their crew, a Sphinx cat by the name of Ano, arrives and decides Randy hasn't had enough. He carved a smile into the cat's face to the other gang members' disgust, and just when they thought he was done, he pulled out his handgun and fires it into Randy's body. Randy was believed to be dead, left in the woods to be fed on by the wildlife. But he miraculously survived and was saved by a passerby who found him barely clinging to life and bleeding out. This was Randy's breaking point. From here on he gave in to every violent urge he had. As soon as he got out of the hospital, he found where the thugs were hiding and brutally killed those responsible for his maiming, returning home and continuing the killing spree with Bill, Phil and his bullies. He didn't stop there either, making a point to kill whoever he saw along the way before being arrested after murdering the parents of the black cat he stalked, her name being Jasmine. That is how the pilot ends, and oh my god, if it isn't terrifying. This interpretation of the evil cat's transformation into a villain is every bit what we wanted the trope to be. The cat is made in a way that makes you beg for him not to snap, but by the time he does eventually snap, you are in no way rooting for him. Randy becomes an absolute monster, murdering his friends and other innocent people like they are nothing to him. The final act of the episode feels less like a 90s cartoon and more like a slasher film with the way it plays out, and I cannot think of a better climax to the episode. The only thing I will say about it at times is that it does feel like another Jeff the Killer clone near the end when the storyline is more original at the start. I asked Mr. Nostalgia this question, and he provided me with some evidence during his investigation. The carved smile was actually a Glasgow smile, having been performed by Scottish gangsters during the 1920s. He said that this was paying homage to Tommy Flanagan after he got attacked outside a bar, but the gunshot was for dramatic effect. This had no relation to Jeff the Killer in any way, since this was before the character even existed. I asked him about it, and Mr. Nostalgia proved to me that this show had actually aired on Adult Swim in 2001, but was pulled due to having issues with the staff. I did some research myself and found nothing on the trees have eyes. I went to Google several times and came empty-handed. The show simply vanished from existence. I went back to Mr. Nostalgia to ask him if he can provide me some screenshots, and he said that he already cleared some from his phone due to it having too much storage. But he was able to provide this one image from the show's title sequence.